The H1B Guy here, and today the H1B Guy live, unedited, unscripted Q&A 12, discussing the H1B lottery fiscal year 2022, which opens up next week. As well as I wanted to cover a few other things today, including Prioritization Matrix, the delays in the EAD processings that continue, and maybe just a quick chat around the H1B Guy forecast, April 2021, visa bulletin employment-based predictions. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment-based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. Today's live stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com. The smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001. I wanted to take just a few minutes here today to sit down and have some conversations around the H-1B lottery. As we know, March 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern, the portal will open up for submissions. And I saw something earlier last week that was sent to me, and it was a meme. And what was really interesting about this meme is that it was a handler, as I refer to them as, or a third-party consultancy. A lot of you refer to them as middlemen. And it was a call for employment, basically saying that if you're in the United States and looking for H-1B sponsorship, you didn't need to have a project, you didn't need to have an employer. All you needed to have was reach out to them and they would put you in. And I thought this was pretty interesting because one of the things that we talk about a lot here on this channel, and a lot of you that interact with me over the last several months, we've talked about this electronic submission, wage-based lottery, random selection. So we've gotten into a lot of different things surrounding the H-1B lottery. But I can tell you that there is really no busier time for immigration attorneys, for internal immigration specialists, immigration managers that are working internally for employers right now. They've never been busier. But I think one thing that the electronic submission has changed is that it only requires a $10 fee, and individuals, of course, can be submitted by multiple employers. And I think that's interesting because really what it's done is it's reduced a lot of the upfront cost for employers who are looking to sponsor an H-1B individual. So I'm really interested to see how that is going to impact the number of submissions that we have this year. For a lot of you who have watched and seen, back at the end of the year, I did my 7 employment-based predictions for immigration for 2021. One of the things I said was that I'm expecting there to be less than 200,000 H-1B petitions filed in the lottery this year. Of course, a lot of that was, still centering around the bans that were in place and the current pandemic. So, I think a big thing here that we look at is what are the number of petitions received by USCIS going to look like? I'm thinking about doing a live stream next Tuesday at noon to cover, the portal opening up. I'll get more out on that later, but definitely something that I've been thinking about. Of course, if you guys have any comments or questions that you want to ask me, go ahead and post those in the chat, and I will get to them towards the end of the stream. I did see something that came up on LinkedIn that one of my connections liked, and it's a second connection. And you know what's interesting about LinkedIn is it's public domain. And so this was a LinkedIn post by an individual named Julia Cloudy, and she's a senior recruiter in the Chicago metro area. And the post says, quote, "Appreciation post. I have so much admiration for those working to find employment in the US while needing visa sponsorship. These candidates are consistently the most determined, professional, and respectful people that I come into contact with. Many have achieved multiple degrees, certifications, and diligently work to become the most valuable member of any team. I rarely am given the freedom to recruit H-1B candidates, but I see the value that they bring to the table. For those who fit this profile, I know the job search is extra difficult for you. Thank you for the respect and patience that you show recruiters, and know that we hope to help. Keep working hard, give respect, get respect." I thought that this post was really interesting because it talks about, one, how persistent H-1B seeking individuals are, which is a really big thing, right? I can tell you that in the last 60 days, the number of messages I've got for folks reaching out either on their own behalf or for, a friend or a family member's behalf, they are looking for an employer to sponsor them in the upcoming lottery. And I can tell you that this is something that's been going on for years. It starts in November generally and continues well into March. Now, with the electronic submissions that have been put in place, that's been moved up a little bit, right? So it's not continuing into March like it used to. But I think it's an interesting point because she alludes to value. And the quote is, "I'm rarely given the freedom to recruit H-1Bs, but I see the value that they bring to the table." And, you and I have talked about this a lot. And that is this: the value of the H-1B visa has never been higher. It's never been higher for the individual looking to obtain one. It's never been higher for the employer who is sponsoring for one. It's never been higher. They are extremely difficult to get. You're talking about 85,000, 65 and 20, two separate pools. And as we've discussed last year, 275,000 applications, giving roughly a 31% chance of being selected. So all this to say that H-1B visa is valuable, and it's never been higher. I wanted to give Julia some credit here. She really hit the nail on the head here. And the thing, as I said, the one word that comes to mind when I think about individuals who are here in the US or even those that are around the world that are looking for H-1B sponsorship, and that is they are persistent. And finding an employer to sponsor you in the H-1B lottery requires a lot of persistence. And it only takes one yes. And I will tell you that I've talked to some individuals previously that said it was like 99 no's for one yes. Now, of course, the easiest way to find a sponsor is to be working for that employer in a different status and understand that that employer knows the process, is educated on the process and what's required of them. But the percentage and probability of that's pretty rare. It just is. And so that's what makes getting an H-1B visa so difficult. Is you talk about all of the work that goes into the lottery, getting a sponsor that's willing to sponsor you, and it is not something that's easy to accomplish. So kudos to Julia for bringing attention As she said, an appreciation post. I agree 100%. So moving on to the prioritization matrix. And Department of Homeland Secretary Ali Mayorkas said, quote, "We have a prioritization matrix, and the acute needs of people fleeing persecution is a high priority." What's interesting about this statement is that it was in reference to a question that was asked about lifting Presidential Proclamation 10,052, aka the H1B travel ban. So what's contradictory here is that a lot of the lifting of PP 10,014 discuss separation of families. And I personally know of about a dozen individuals who are currently on an H-1B visa outside of the US, and their family is here in the US, and they've been unable to get back into the US because they don't qualify for the national interest exception. And so I said this on Twitter yesterday. And that is, I don't think the Department of Homeland Secretary Ali Mayorkas answered this question. What he did answer is that high-skilled immigrants are not the priority of the current administration. I'll give USCIS a lot of leniency here to say that they were left a pretty big mess. But the thing that really, really gets me is this. The culture at USCIS is something that predates President Trump's administration. This downward turn started back in 2014, 2015. I will tell you, I lived it. I was part of an employer who was dealing with this stuff. So, Secretary Mayorkas, you've got your work cut out for you. As I said when I mulled over the nomination of Alejandro Mayorkas for Department of Homeland Secretary, I warned you that there would be a priority put on undocumented and refugee asylees, temporary protected status individuals ahead of high-skilled immigrants. If that doesn't upset you, then we have a problem, because I will tell you that high-skilled temporary foreign workers being unable to get into this country to perform roles that are in high demand, that are left unfilled, is a problem. It's going to create a huge domino effect that we'll be experiencing and living and feeling for several years. So I hope that the prioritization matrix quickly shifts in the next few weeks. I'm going to give them some leniency. We're still not in the 100 days yet. In fact, we are a little over, I think, 6 weeks since the 46th president of the United States was inaugurated. I understand they were left a mess. To change a culture is a huge undertaking, and there is a systemic problem happening as an organization within USCIS's walls. So good luck to Secretary Mayorkas and working on cleaning up and changing that culture. Just wanted to ask you, if you haven't already, to please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and if you haven't, click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live, like I am right now, so that you don't miss an opportunity to come in and hang out with me and interact. The other thing I wanted to talk about is last night I had the opportunity to sit down with some EADs that are currently in the EAD delays. The thing that I will tell you is this thing is very much widespread. It is not just H4 EADs. It's not just L2 EADs. It's not just OPT EADs. The delays go on and on and on and on. And the thing that I talked about last week on Immigration Bites 4 on the H1B Guy podcast is that there are currently 57 EAD categories, 57 EAD categories. 12 qualify for the exception. The exception is that you can extend your work authorization by 180 days from expiration as long as your renewal was received and a receipt notice produced. So, that's less than 20%, right, of categories that qualify for the exception. So what it doesn't account for is loss of jobs, loss of wages, quite honestly, a loss of freedom. And so we're going to talk about this more. I'm working on having a live panel sometime in the next week or two. So stay tuned, but we're going to continue to talk about these delays. Hopefully, the Secretary for Department of Homeland Security, Ali Mayorkas, can get this ship righted. We can get these contractors going who are processing these cases, issuing receipts and cashing checks, because the problem just seems to continue. And the last thing that I wanted to move on to is the April visa bulletin. My predictions, I really just want to say I appreciate all of the feedback and support for the H1B Guy forecast April 2021 visa bulletin employment-based predictions. I'm going to keep working on improving this monthly post. I want to make sure that we're highlighting and emphasizing some of the data around it, and that's specifically the forward movement in days from month over month and over the last 6 months. A lot of you feel like my predictions that I posted on Monday were a little bit conservative. I think I got burned by the rapid forward movement projections going back to the October 2020 visa bulletin. And we've joked about rapid forward movement is a farce. And so, I think, to me, that's probably why I have erred more on this conservative side, even with April's bulletin. I could be wrong, but I have a hard time seeing final action dates for EB1 moving into 2021 or even current. I've seen a lot of folks out there saying current in January, February, and maybe they're right. And maybe 60 days forward movement from August to October is conservative. But I think I'm going to err on that side. I just feel like they haven't shown a lot of interest in rapidly accelerating, but you are starting to see some of the creep. And what I mean by creep is final action dates moving closer to dates of filing, going back to December 2020 visa bulletin. Those are the benchmarks. I don't see dates of filing moving until October of this year or fiscal year 2023 month one. But we'll see. I think a lot of you have hope that we're going to see some big movement again in April. I mean, we had 90 plus days in India EB2 and India EB3. They were rapid accelerators. You saw dates of filing go current for China and India. So there's a lot going on. There's no doubt about that, but very interesting to see, how that's going to play out over the next few months. And so, again, thanks to all of you for, your feedback and your support on that video. I'm going to continue to try to tune that and get that better for you guys. But I really feel like it's come a long way. Have any of you noticed the new intro that I put together for the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube for my uploads? Just curious if you guys have any feedback on that as well. So those were the things that I had today. I wanted to talk about, listen, we are less than 6 days away from the portal for the H1B lottery fiscal year 2022 opening. The prioritization matrix I thought was very interesting, especially coming from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. These EAD delays continue. There are folks that are under a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety being created around it. And, I hope that we can continue to do our little part to bring awareness to that problem. And then the April visa bulletin, which I think a lot of you from March have hope. And that's a good thing. It really is. But I want to warn you that I think in order for final action dates and dates of filing to mirror, it's going to be a gradual inch, right? A gradual inch each month. And dates of filing, quite honestly, will probably stay where they are. I've heard reports that there were somewhere in estimates of 38,000 adjustments of status that were filed in October of 2020. That doesn't include November and December, which we're still accepting dates of filing. So will be very interesting to see, how this starts to play out over the next few months. So wanted to just ask you again. Now I'm going to move into the Q&A. I've got a bunch of questions already, but I want to make sure that I take your questions and comments here. Would love to do that kind of through the rest of the hour here and just have some interactions. If you guys have any stories that you would like to share in terms of your lottery selection and how that happened, let me know. I'd love to hear those. I think we may even do something along those lines next Tuesday, where we cover the portal opening next Tuesday at noon, and talk about why this each year is such an important thing that we do here. So again, please like this video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. And I had a question to bring up my LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to do that first. Give me 1 second while I navigate through this. So Sandeep, how you doing? Thank you for joining this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Here is my LinkedIn profile, and I will pull that up right now. So pretty easy. It's just linkedin.com/in/R Bouchard, Robert Bouchard. If you search the H1B Guy on LinkedIn, it should come up as well. But it's the same profile pic that I have on Twitter or Facebook if you guys follow me on any of those platforms, as well as Instagram. But please connect with me. I use LinkedIn as much as I use Twitter in terms of my platform. And I saw something the other day about LinkedIn, and not to get off on this rant, but Sandeep, you actually made me think of something, and that is, I saw where a lot of people refer to LinkedIn as the #1 social media networking site. And as a former technology recruiter, I will tell you that I always viewed LinkedIn as the world's largest recruiting site, right? Because if you have a LinkedIn profile, even if you're saying not currently seeking new opportunities, not open to jobs, there's a high probability if I have a job that you're a fit for, I'm going to figure out a way to send that to you, either to connect with you or message that to you. So, LinkedIn to me, very valuable tool. And it's one of the mechanisms that a lot of recruiters use to determine whether they want to call you or not. So what I mean by that is if you submit your resume to a job, even if you're an H1B, you submit your resume to a job, recruiter's going to look at that resume. Generally, they're going to look at the resume that comes in. They're going to look in their database to see how does that resume look like for other resumes that they've received from you. And then they're going to hit LinkedIn. And if you don't have a professional picture on LinkedIn, it's just that blank gray circle, there's a high probability that you may not get called, texted, or emailed. So my little recruiter rant here today for those who aren't using LinkedIn or looking to use LinkedIn, make sure that LinkedIn matches your resume and make sure that you have a profile picture. Those are the two things that recruiters want from you. And I can tell you that if you do those two things, your resume matches your LinkedIn profile and you have a profile picture, you're going to increase your callback probability significantly. So Sandeep, shoot me a connection. I look forward to accepting that and being connected to you on LinkedIn. And anyone else who's watching this, please, I am a LinkedIn open networker, so open to all connections and invites. Harsha, how you doing? Thank you for joining us today. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well and your family as well. Can a person approach two unrelated employers and request them to register him or her for the lottery? Yes, absolutely. And that meme that I alluded to earlier in the stream, the one that said, you don't need an employer, you don't need a job, just let us submit you into the portal and then we'll deal with it later. That's what this creates, right? And so you can hedge your bet by having multiple employers submit your profile into the electronic portal for selection. And so I think that's why we've seen over the years some pretty high numbers, is that there's been multiple petitions submitted by multiple individuals, and so, or multiple employers for the same individual. Again, it goes back to a 31% probability from fiscal year 2021. And where I'm getting that number is 85,000 H1Bs, 275,000 applicants. Okay. So again, that's why individuals will continue to seek employers who are willing to sponsor them, is because you increase your odds, right? The more likelihood that you have to go in there, you increase your odds. The percentages increase a little bit at a time. And so, yes, Harsha, this has been one of the reasons why, for me personally, I've been an advocate for wage-based selection. And as I've talked about now, what I envisioning as kind of a hybrid selection, I think that will do away from the blanket petitions by multiple employers for the same individual. That'll solve a lot of the problems, and that will take away from a lot of the so-called research experts out there who are screaming that we need to increase the H1B allocation because supply doesn't meet demand. Well, if we go back and look at how many of those cases are the same individual being sponsored by multiple employers, being petitioned by multiple employers, be very interesting to see what that data looks like and how does that reduce the gap. Because that's what it is right now. It's a big gap. So, Harsha, thank you so much for your question. Good luck to you. And if I can help you, please reach out. Hey, Ram, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Things in Colorado are good for you and your family's well. So why is USCIS slow in processing? Why can't they automate or speed up the processing of applications or extensions? It is either approved or reject. Why cannot they take decisions fast? And then budget constraint is not a reason for delays. What is the reason? Is there any way this delays can be corrected by USCIS? Yeah, so I think, Ram, you're really onto something. Why is it so slow? I mean, they used the pandemic initially, and it created a backup. I can tell you that a lot of folks that I talked to that have an H4 EAD that was filed in May or June that are still pending, I think that goes back directly to the pandemic. And you can tie that back to the USCIS offices being closed. I've talked to some individuals who've made visits to the physical office and there's nobody there. So they're not even on site. The other thing is that USCIS uses an outsourced contract service to file and process a lot of these cases. And what I mean file is within their system. So, to go back to how can they speed up? Why can't they automate? Again, this goes back to one of my 7 predictions for 2021. And that is, I believe by the end of the year, we're going to see electronic filings for H1Bs for amendments, extensions, change of employers. I think that's coming. We've already seen that start with the H2 electronic filing. So, hopefully we'll see something along these lines happen by the end of the year, because you're right. It's like literally the case should be pretty straightforward, right? The G28, supplement H, DC, like those are pretty straightforward on the I-129s. So as long as the evidence is there, I tend to agree with you. I actually was having a conversation with one of my really good friends last week, and he thinks that we're going to see a significant increase in employers internally filing H1B petitions, amendments, extensions over the next 5 years. Because once these forms do go electronic and are automated, it's going to be pretty easy for employers internally to process this on their own, especially if you're doing multiples and you have kind of an idea of what you're doing. A lot of companies already have a subject matter expert that helps them in processing these internally anyway. But yeah, I think, Ram, I think there's a lot of reasons for the delay. COVID has been a big part of that. The third-party contractors that they use, the outsource to process this, has been a big part of it. The other thing I think has been a big part of it too, goes back to the adjustment of status numbers from October. When they moved the dates of filing up to 2015 and then had to move it back in December to 2014, I think that's a big telling sign that they got thousands and thousands of AOS petitions received. And I know a lot of you out there that, only recently has your check been cashed or your receipt notice been provided. But I know a lot of folks that have already had receipt notice provided, check cashed, approved, and EAD being issued. So the variety and the randomness to who and what is being processed, is there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. And again, I'll tell you that there's a lot of people out there who track this, and I'm really appreciative of them for helping track this and provide this data for me, so that I can continue to bring awareness to it. Because we go back to, what are we talking about? Delays create what? Loss of job, loss of wages, anxiety, stress, loss of freedom. Hey, Samir, thank you for the super chat, my friend. You didn't have to do that, but I just am so grateful for your friendship and your support. Hey, Robert, is it wise to file H4 extension here in the U.S. or simply go and get a step outside in India and then file wife's EAD in U.S.? Is it faster? I think that this is a question a lot of people are asking right now, Samir, trying to figure out, how do we speed up the process? How do we go through it all? Because I know of a lot of individuals whose spouses filed their H1B extension and premium processing. Receipt notice issued, check cashed, premium processing approved, H1B approved, and yet the H4 is still pending. No receipt notice, no check cash, just sitting. So it's like, how did that case that was filed in conjunction, right? Was it separated? I don't know, but you and I have talked about this before, Samir, and I think I've always advised on being conservative here, and that is I would avoid travel if possible. And I say that because there's a lot of reports out there that now are saying that um, the number of vaccines will be available for every American by the end of May. And I think that it goes back to what we talked about back on the H1B Guy and Friends Live episode 1, where is everyone being vaccinated, or 80% of the world being vaccinated? Is that what's going to create the return to normal? And so my fear is that your wife goes to India to get her stamp processed and then can't get back in because there's a separation. Now, if presidential proclamation 10,052 expires at the end of March, I'd feel more comfortable in advising you to take this approach. And so I did want to say one thing. So I reached out to Samir unprompted, and he and I have been interacting for several months personally. He's been one of the biggest supporters here of this channel, and I just am so grateful for his friendship and his support. And so I haven't done a Stamp It Out Q&A yet in 2021, and a lot of that is because I did a lot of them towards the end of 2020. And I really wanted to launch a few new initiatives here on this channel going into 2021. And you've seen that with the H1B Guy Live, where I have 3 or 4 friends on, and we talk about the latest impacting employment-based immigration. The Documented Dreamer series, where I am highlighting kids who are aging out. And I'm also working on the EAD awareness series, where we're going to have some individuals on who have been impacted by the EAD delays. And so the Stamp It Out series took a little bit of a back burner. I've been reposting. I've reposted the first 3 in audio only on the H1B Guy podcast. So if you prefer to listen to something much longer format, because those are generally an hour, hour 30, hour 40 minutes, they're pretty long, and I don't edit them. You may prefer the podcast over the videos, but they're here on the YouTube channel as well as on the H1B Guy podcast. So I say all of this to let you know that Samir and I actually just confirmed he is going to come on next. He's going to be on the H1B Guy Stamp It Out Q&A 8 on March 24th. And I think we're going to do that at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's Wednesday, March 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to have Samir on so that all of you can get to meet this beautiful person and individual. And I think you're going to find that he is as sharp as they come. So Samir, thank you for the super chat, my friend. I'm so humbled by your support. What is the status of H4 EAD? Hema asks. So right now there's significant delays. I did hear of someone who recently got their biometrics appointment. So I think that there's twofold here, right? There's getting the biometrics appointment, and then there's getting the confirmation of receipt and the EAD process. As you're aware, EAD can't be processed in premium processing right now, although it is something that they said they were going to be doing at a future date. I actually saw a recommendation reform that said if the H1B is filed in premium processing and the H4 EAD is filed in conjunction with the H1B, that it should be processed in premium as well. Honestly, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you're already paying what, $1,500, $1,600 to have that done. But understand that if they can get 2,225 out of you, or whatever the H4 processing fee is going to be, they're going to do that, because premium processing is USCIS's #1 revenue generation for their fee-based model. It just is. So, Hema, I hope I answered this question, which is to say there are still massive delays that are currently going on for H4 EAD. employees right now, several of which are experiencing loss of jobs, loss of work, loss of wages, loss of freedom. Hey, Sammy, how you doing? Nice to see you as well. Really appreciate you reaching out. Hey, Melind, how are you? Very nice to see you. Thanks for jumping in the stream today. Sorry if I missed this already. Can we really hope anything for H4 extension, H4 EAD? My wife's extension is pending from April 2020, and I feel bad going back home from work and can't even look in her eyes. Melinda, I will tell you, my friend, this is something that came up on the conversation yesterday, and we're going to talk about this more next week. And that is, it isn't just about the loss of wages, the loss of job, the loss of freedom. It's also about the stress and burden that it puts on a marriage, right? I mean, I can tell you that my wife is an angel and a saint. But if I could not work because I didn't have work authorization, it'd be a problem. It'd be a problem for us socially, emotionally, financially. It'd be a problem for my dignity, for my worth, for my self-value. And so I'm sorry, Melinda. I know that this is stressful for you, but your wife, who, I mean, I'm looking at this picture of her right here in your avatar, and I mean, gosh, what a beautiful looking woman. And I can't imagine the stress that this is putting on her. I'm so sorry that you're having to go through this. If she is interested, I'm still working on adding a few more participants to the EAD awareness series. Can you please reach out to me directly? I don't know if you follow me on Twitter or not, but you can contact me, the H1B Guy at gmail.com. Sure, Sammy. Let's see if I can pull this up. Here's Melind. And yes, thank you for your thorough study and analysis. I really appreciate that. Listen, one of the things I want to do is just try to bring clarity so that everyone understands what's going on here. Hey, Garima, how are you? Very nice to see you again. I'm pretty sure you've missed very few live streams here. Every morning, I wish my husband loses his job. Sorry, but yes, I do. And we sell our house in loss and go back. I can't drive, can't work. How can anyone be so useless like I am for 8 months? So let's see, 8 months would put you in that, what, June, July frame? And this is the one that we've been talking about, right? Where so many people have been impacted, around that particular time frame. I mean, look, Melind said his wife was April 2020. I know folks that go back to February 2020. Here you are in May or June of 2020. I mean, the dominoes just the examples and the dominoes of folks like you and this problem, who we didn't even talk about the loss of driver's license. I mean, it varies by state. It varies by DMV. There's no consistency to this. Do I need my EAD? Do I need my spouse's approval? What do I need to get a driver's license so that I can take myself to the grocery store? It stinks. And again, it goes back to, how can anyone be so useless like I am? A loss of self-worth, a loss of value, a loss of your ability to earn and provide for yourself outside of what your spouse does. So, question, any hopes in the week of 3/15 for immigration reform? I heard it's going to be for only undocumented dreamers, of which H4 brown kids are not a part. Yeah, that's the rumor. The Dream and Raise Act, which is interesting because very squarely in the language of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, there is an automatic EAD for spouses and dependents of H1B visas, and there is a age out clause for kids, H4s, dependents who came here before their 18th birthday. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of folks are waiting to see what this language looks like. And is it going to be completely separate and not include H4s? And if it does, hopefully the good folks over at improvethedream.org who are advocating for all documented dreamers, not just H4s, not just E2s, all documented dreamers, can work to get that language, added, because I think that's going to be a big part of that. Kids are kids, whether they're an E2 kid, an H4 kid, an L2 kid. Kids are kids, and it wasn't their choice to come here. But yeah, as you've seen through the Documented Dreamer series, most of the kids that I've had on, they identify as American. I mean, we're talking 3 months, 8 months, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. That's how long most of them have been here. And I joke and I love Summer to death, but she she probably, being from the UK, has the thickest accent of any of the kids that I've had on the Documented Dreamer series so far. The irony in that is really amazing. So my case is DS260, and I am a DS260 winner 2021. I want to ask about MVC. Yeah, so what about, let's see, here we go. Let's see if I can check this here. When I check MVC, it says AT MVC. What does that mean, AT MVC? Can you tell me? Sammy, unfortunately, I'm not sure. So what I will do is I will research this for you, and I would love to try to answer that if I can. If anyone who's watching right now knows, can you post it in the chat? But Sammy, will you email me at the H1B Guy at gmail.com? And I'll research the AT MVC for you. I'm going to write it down right now. I will tell you, and I don't know them personally, but at DC Observer, or excuse me, at DV Observer, DC, at DV Diversity Visa Observer on Twitter is a great resource for all DV related questions. They're generally my go-to just in terms of the news for DVs. I cover DVs a good bit because they do impact employment-based preferences here in the U.S., although the lottery is outside of that. So Sam, I'm sorry I can't immediately answer your question, but I will. So I just need you to email me, theh1bguy at gmail.com, and I'll get an answer and reply back to you. Okay. Hey, Samir says, we finally got the vaccine. Hope they have some waiver for those who got it. Right. Yeah. I mean, I am waiting in line here, Samir. I have not gotten the call yet. Things have been a little bit slow in Georgia. Yeah, perfect. My extension will be done by July. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I think if you look at a lot of the news reports that are out there, Samir, they're talking about, May, right? So May, June, I think is what a lot of the forecasts are saying right now, going into to the summer in terms of a return to normalcy. So good luck with that. I'm here to help you if I can. Hey, Prakash, how you doing? Thank you for jumping in. Hi, any update on H4 premium processing? Yeah, I actually alluded to this earlier when I was referring to Malind and answering, addressing his comment, and that is to say they are missing a big piece of revenue here by not offering it. I mean, can you imagine how many H4 EADs would upgrade their case to premium if they could right now? I'd imagine that would generate millions of dollars, because I'm thinking there's probably anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 H4 EADs currently out there that either could be impacted or would be willing to upgrade. That number may be a little bit excessive on the 5,000 side. Probably a couple of thousand is more accurate. But just, quick math, 2,000 by 2,000, geez, that's a pretty good chunk of revenue. I think that would allow them to add a few more contractors to increase receipt notices and chat cachings. What do you think, Prakash? But again, a lot of the speculation that I've seen had said the next quarter before that's going to be offered. So, when you think about that, you're talking about, May, April or May before that may be an option. But I'll definitely be keeping track on that. I know all of you will. As soon as I know something, we'll post it here or talk about it on the channel or put it on my website. Just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't, please like this video. Please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. I'm going to go till 3 o'clock here. I've got several more questions I want to get through. I don't like to ask this, but I will. Super chats are open, as Samir posted one in there. Thank you, Samir. Super chats are a great way for you guys to support the platform. If you don't want to do a super chat, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee. It's at buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. Listen, no amount that you contribute here to me in this platform is too small. Anything that you do will be put back into the H1B Guy platform so that I can sharpen up my technology, as I was alluding to on the April Visa Bulletin forecast. I'm really trying to incorporate a lot of data elements in that. So, just again, appreciate all of your support and those who've come out here to join the live stream. Prasad asks, what's the latest on country quota removal? Yeah, I mean, that was in the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 text. There is striking employment-based country quota, country caps. But then there is some language that talks about percentages. It doesn't use the word percentage directly, but it infers percentage allocation based on area. So again, who knows? But we'll see. This has been one of the things that, since this channel launched back in the end of June of 2020, that I've been a huge proponent of. And that is, I think that 7% country caps are ridiculous. They're discriminatory, and there's no reason for it. I'm a huge proponent of first come, first serve. In fact, I'm a huge proponent of implementing a merit-based points immigration system altogether, which unfortunately doesn't look like that's going to be something that's in the cards anytime soon. But the hope, right, is that if they decide to use the comprehensive immigration reform bill in the form of USCIS 21, that you would see this potentially by the end of the year, because there's a big push to get this legislation passed before heading into next year, which is an election year. But a lot of the rumors out there are that this bill is going to be broken up. It's going to be piecemealed, and this could be one of the things that may be put on the back burner. Good question. H4 premium processing was approved, I guess, as of a stopgap funding in October 20. Any hope? Yeah, I mean, that goes back to Prasad's question, right? If you're having ridiculous, atrocious delays and processing EADs, specifically H4s, and you've given approval to implement a H4 premium processing fee in order to expedite and increase revenue, why wouldn't you do that? The only answer is that they don't have the human capital to do it. So that they could take the premium processing fee, but they wouldn't be able to approve the case in the guaranteed allotted time. So I think what you may see happen is that you may see the premium processing language change. Instead, in terms of number of days versus how it currently is. But I guess we'll get to that as this continues to evolve and transpire here. Samir says, at Melinda DK, I completely understand and sympathies with you, friend. I've been through it once, but afraid of it happening again. Yeah, I mean, the stress this puts on a marriage when your spouse can't work because their visa, their work authorization, employment authorization document is pending, and it's been pending for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. It's a problem. Hey, Vinay, how you doing? Thank you for jumping in. Going forward, what are your thoughts on proposed GC route for PhD students by Biden administration? Do you think it can ever be realized? Is there any bipartisan support for this? I think this could be something we could see, Vinay. I do. I think what this does is it promotes U.S.-based institutions. It promotes PhD in STEM to come here in the U.S. It creates a cycle, right? And what is that cycle? It's a new cycle. And by new cycle, I mean US based higher advanced education, earning a PhD in STEM gives you an opportunity, to find an employer for 36 months roughly, right? If you talk about the time that your OPT, EAD, STEM would be valid, it would give you an opportunity to then find an employer who'd be willing to sponsor your perm labor. And if that were the case, then you wouldn't be subject to the quota, the country caps either. Even if that wasn't a possibility, you would just bypass all of that. This is something I'm in favor of. I'm really big on US-based PhDs. I don't think that there is another education in the system in the world that has the standards that ours does. And so to have someone come here, get a US-based PhD, and then tell them that, you know what, you've either got to go into H1B or you've got to leave, to me it sends the wrong signal. And so, yeah, I think that this is something that we could see. I think this is something that the Democrats will definitely support, Vinay. Even if it becomes something that's more of a piecemeal type, smaller bill, I think the PhD clause is something that we'll continue to see. The irony of U.S. immigration today is that we might be better treated if we throw away our papers and just hop across the fence. No disrespect intended, but U.S. government's attitude makes us skeptical. Absolutely. My friend Alex Narasta from Cato posted today some details that we're talking about restriction. I saw. There's some data out there. Basically, we have the most restrictive immigration system in the world. But understand, we are the #1 destination country in the world as well. And so that's why we have to have the restrictions that we do. I'm pro-immigration. I'm pro-employment-based immigration. But we need to have some definitive processes in place to make sure that these cycles aren't being extended. And how do we do that? Well, we eliminate country caps. We create a first come, first serve basis. It just would do that. Absolutely, agreement. Thank you for joining in. I always appreciate your support. Hey, Hima, thank you so much. Really appreciate your support. Okay, so MVC, National Visa Center. So I'll do a little bit more research on that for Samuel. Again, hey, if you're still watching, it looks like you emailed me. I will research that and get back to you by some point tomorrow. Thanks for jumping in this stream. Really just appreciate it. And Sandeep, thanks for National Visa Center. So many acronyms, right? Well, Prakash, I like being right, but unfortunately, in circumstances like this, I hate that I am right. But really appreciate, your support and jumping in here, because I'll tell you, the H4 premium processing would be an instant injection, and I think it would help decrease and alleviate a lot of problems that USCIS is experiencing right now. Oh, thank you. Appreciate the thumbs up. Just so appreciative of your support and tuning in and asking questions. Yes, super chats are essential. Trying to understand it takes a lot for what he brings to the table. It's not about this 30-minute videos that Robert makes, but about the efforts that goes into it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. A lot of work goes into it. May God bless you. Thank you for emailing me. Also time, energy, plus cross-checking and finding the right info. Please extend your support for his content creation. Thank you, Samir. I try to keep the facts and do the research. There sometimes I swing and miss. Sometimes I get the facts construed There are sometimes I put stuff out there that people don't like, don't agree with, don't think that I'm in line. It is what it is. I have an opinion. I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice. Anything I talk about here is for education and personal entertainment purposes only. But I'm going to give you an opinion, and it's going to be a real heartfelt opinion. And you can take that and then form your own, right? That's one of the things that we look to do here on this channel. But that's why I created the Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/the H1B guy, is that no amount is too small, whether that be here on YouTube through Super Chats, through Buy Me a Coffee. Of course, if I can help you, if you need my services in a more extended manner, I do offer one-on-one individual consulting. I do employer-based consulting where I help solve complex work authorization issues. So that's how you can continue to help me and this platform. Thank you, Samir, so much for bringing awareness to that. I disagree. H1B, H4 premium processing question. Human capital can't be a reason they introduced PP for E3 visas, which has no backlog at all. Isn't it? It's suspicious. Yeah. So you know what? You might be right. The E3 is the Australian national equivalent to the H1B visa. It is issued generally in the same amount of increments, 2 to 3 years. But it can be extended indefinitely. There's no expiration on that. So E3s don't have a maximum of 6 years. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe it's because there's so few of them. That would be my guess. I mean, as we said, we were talking about, potentially anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 cases that could be pending. I have a hard time believing that there's that many E3 cases. I'll tell you, in all of my years of processing, I only processed a handful of E3 cases versus hundreds of H1s. So the numbers are probably much smaller and easier for them to implement. But hey, we can always disagree here, and that's what makes this so fun, right? Is that it's an opinion. So thanks for addressing my question. This is from Vinay. I have an offer to start PhD right after completing my master's. Just unsure if the GC route will ever be realized in Biden's term. PhD requires a big time commitment. Not only a big time commitment, Vinay, but it requires a big financial commitment, right? I mean, you're getting to that here. It's time and money for you. If you're worried about it, then my thoughts would be, graduate, work under your OPT EAD for 12 months, and then see what the landscape looks like. You could always go into, the PhD program after that. Or if you have a STEM degree, you could extend, for 24 months, or even get into, H1B territory. That may not be what you're looking to do. You're maybe trying to avoid that cycle. But if you're unsure, you're not sure you want to commit the time, the money, think about working for a year under your OPT EAD. Find an employer who's willing to bring you on, get some experience, and then if that isn't working out, you could always use the PhD program as a fallback, although it may not be this one, right? Because it sounds like you've got probably a good scholarship offer, a good opportunity to go do this right now. But yeah, I mean, I think that's my advice. I think that the PhD thing could be a possibility. I'd imagine you're probably looking at 2 years to complete that degree. So by my math, let's say you start that program this summer. Now maybe you're talking about spring of 2023. Yeah, there's a very high possibility that could be legislation by that point. But I want to warn you, there's a very high possibility it could die, and we never see that language included in any sort of bill going forward ever again. I mean, it could go either way very quickly on that. Thanks for joining in here, Vinay. Really appreciate your time. Well, thanks, Grima. Yep, putting a lot of effort with sincerity and definitely helping immigration beneficiaries a lot. Listen, that's what I was put on this planet to do. It became very clear to me back in the beginning of June that I have a very unique niche skill set. I understand employers I understand employees, and I understand some of the legal aspects of this. I'm not an attorney, but I understand some of the legal aspects of it. So I think it gives me a unique voice. Listen, there's a lot of channels out here on YouTube that do a lot less than I do and have a lot more subscribers and have a lot wider viewership. And I'm okay with that. I'm just going to continue to be me and produce content out there that I am proud of, that I believe in, and that I believe conveys my message and the message that I want you, my customers, because that's what you are to me. You're my customer. I want you to find value in. And so thanks, Garima. Just appreciate that compliment. And one last thing for Vinay from Sandeep, remember that OPT time on F1 visa is limited. So if you use your OPT duration after MS, that time will be deducted from the post-PhD OPT, 100%. And that's why my advice is, why don't you consider working for a year under it, get your PhD, because now you're talking about 3 years, right? You'd be moving almost into an election year at that point. And then you still could have a possibility of an OPT EAD STEM extension for up to 24 months, if that were still a possibility. Great clarification, Sandeep. And, here we go. Yeah, the PhD position is fully funded. I'm going to work because MS student loans. But thanks for your advice. Really appreciate all the advice. Thank you so much for your time. Hard to walk away from a fully funded PhD program. I'm sure you've consulted with your parents and your friends on it. If I was advising you as a family member, I'd give you the same advice. Follow your gut. What's your instinct tell you? If your instinct's telling you go work for a year, make a little money, and then maybe come back to the program, then do that. And last one, thanks, Sandeep. That's a great point. Keep that in mind. Yeah, you've got to make sure that you know how much time you have, because if you're in the cycle and the PhD thing is still not a direct path for employment-based preferences, then you're going to have to find someone who's willing to sponsor you in your H1. So that's very important and critical part of the process. So just wanted to ask you again, just a quick reminder, Friday, the H1B Guy news for the week ending March 5th, 2021. Next week, we've got a lot planned, potentially looking at doing a lottery party live stream at noon next Tuesday. I'm working on something for next Wednesday night and a few other things. The Documented Dreamer series episode 3 will be March 18th. As I mentioned, Stamp It Out Q&A 8 with Samir will be on March 24th. And then working on the H1B Guy and Friends Live episode 3 on March 31st. So those are going to be the rest of the live streams for the month. Going to go ahead and do a quick copy read, and that is to say that reminder that today's live stream was brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001. This national job board network provides recruitment websites in 1,024 major U.S. metro areas. Each local job board is its own portal and is a low-cost resource for immigration recruitment ads for all industries and professions, with a flat price of $225 per ad, regardless of which city you choose. RecruiterNetworks.com has been the #1 place for immigration attorneys, immigration ad agencies, and employers to meet the DOL requirements for the digital portion of the perm advertisement rules. RecruiterNetworks.com. Tell them the H1B guy sent you. Check out their website. They did a revamp about a month and a half ago. If you haven't already, again, very much individualized. So think AtlantaRecruiter.com, SacramentoRecruiter.com, ChicagoRecruiter.com. So if you haven't, create a profile on their website specific to your metro area. I just wanted to thank all of you for all the comments today. We had a ton of them. Great Q&A session today. Thank you, everybody. Sammy, I will get back to you. Sandeep, I got your note. I'll go in and accept that LinkedIn connection. Anyone else, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to have that connection with you there. But want to wrap up, just ask one more time, like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live like I did here today, or post new content here to this channel like I will on Friday. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this live stream and watch my videos. I really appreciate your support. I continue to be humbled and amazed by all of you who message me and reach out to me on a daily basis. Thank you so much. I'm Robert. I'm the H1B guy, your global source for all things H1B.